Hi. This week is really about how to center ourselves in the beingness and humanness of who we are, and realizing there is nothing that happens without people, and the ability to be a people and with others respond as people. There's an enormous amount of centering and value and expanding creativity in that process. And what showed up this week, and I'm going to call it the polarity of up and down, because whether we're up or down, there's lots of factors involved as to how we step off that middle ground. And it doesn't matter where that middle ground is solid, down here, here, here. The dot can be on any of these lines of where you are but centered in it. So we can spiral out or we can spiral down. And what showed up this week was what was going on with each being and how they got to where what they were feeling and how we got back to their center. We can come into this world with, in fact, we come into this world with amazing capacity that we cannot see. We can't see what's normal to us. So we don't see it because it feels normal. And then, of course, coming into the world, the family, the parents, the country, the environment that you're in has its impact. And what can happen is you can be in a really good place and all of a sudden something happens and it triggers an element from childhood that can take one down. And then to see, oh gosh, I'm being overwhelmed by others again, or others are taking priority, or with what's happening in the world, carrying the weight of what that is for many at this stage can become incredibly burdening. And the energy can really come down and the pressure in our body can go up with that. So to find out what that is so that we can recalibrate and go, oh yes, I'm again lost in others. I'm lost in others. And at some point you can inspire others, but you can't do it for others. There was one being that came who's working in the, mental health, homeless area. And, to be in the surroundings of so many who are assisting and helping and providing and they themselves can, they're here. They came to love that kind of work and involvement from having a deep sense of themselves. But what happens in the overwhelm of it, it becomes a tiring thing. And when it becomes a tiring thing, it becomes work. And then the beingness disappears because it's so overwhelming. You just want to get, you're not going to get the work done. So that if we lose that humanness in the overwhelm, it then affects all the others. And then eventually, you yourself, if you're in a position in that human mode, get so overwhelmed by the fact that so many are in overwhelm. That to bring back that element that says, hi, how are you this morning? Just that simplicity. Hi, how are you this morning? G'day, do you have a good weekend? That element that authentically connects can really bring it back to here for many. It lifts In fact, it was interesting. She was saying that one of the cleaners that comes there is one of those bubbly people. And this cleaner's got no idea, but just by being herself, she's lifting everyone through just by being herself. Because that overwhelm was not taking her down. And there we are becoming more and more aware of the potentiality, the beauty of this place. And coming into this place, that sense of hope and seeing how magnificent this place can be. And it's how people are with each other that brings that. And when over the decades, the sadness of seeing that that's not here can also spiral down to a sense of hopelessness and pain, absolute pain in seeing it. But in that being here and being clear for herself to center into it and not need to be spiraled down by it, but be inspired that by seeing it, others can see it. And the more of us that can see it, the better the interactions in the world is. Again, we can really spiral up or down. One being that I saw has been really under the pump, working 10 hours a day, day after day, and being told, why isn't this done? Why isn't that done? How did that happen over there? That shouldn't have happened. With no real sense of they're already doing at least 2-3 times the amount that really, on a human level, is the capacity and fairness of a workload. And what was happening here was the desire for that it became so not normal, but still doing it. The desire then was to, I just want to be up here. But it wasn't that it wasn't workable. It's just the pressure and the non-recognition, the non-humanness of it was what was not normal. So in seeing the desire of, I don't want to be there anymore, I just want to be on holidays, I can't do this anymore. And it's not that she couldn't do it, she's very capable of what she was doing. But the interaction of those around her really took it down, and got to see very much what needed to be done. And then that normality in life appears again. It recalibrates to itself, and it doesn't want to flee or fly away or stop the world. I don't want to do this anymore. Another way that this showed up was interesting. If early in life we're not very active, and there are some who prefer the poetry and the drama and the arts and whatever, and they're not into the sports, they're not into the physicality, and this desire to be physical it just doesn't exist. So this being over her lifetime has suffered quite a bit through many situations really, but in the latter years has become physical and has focused on the physical as a necessity to be well in life, given where her physicality was. And what was amazing is that because of the past, she assumed that she was always having to, excuse me, to pull herself up. I always have to pull myself up, because if I don't, I'm not going to be well in the future. And she's been doing that for a long time. And she fell and was able to get herself up quite safely and move into the house. But it triggered, I am well. What if this sets me back to where I was before? But what had shown was there was a message inside of her that said, I am not strong. And it's a lie. Because with all the effort she had been making, it actually, even with tests, showed that not only had she maintained her muscle mass, she had increased it ever so slightly, but that is fantastic. Even to maintain it takes quite a bit of work. So in realizing that she was strong, now being able to again be centered, she can move into her physical activity with a sense of, I am strong, and having a joy in the activity rather than coming from negativity. So again, it can play out in that particular way. So another aspect that showed up in terms of that spiral, and it showed up differently than that, even though it can be reflected in that pattern. What showed is that, okay, here we are. Here we are, a being who relates to others, to be in contact with people, even if it is walking a dog saying hello to others. Something happens where the world feels okay. We smile at people, they smile back. It really takes very little. But we need to be in this human sense of self when that hello is spoken, when that smile is given. Because what was happening was, there's heaps of that in this being. In fact, it showed up, there's nothing new here. You brought this element with you, this element to be personable. But what had happened is there was this energy of, why hasn't this happened in my life? And I wish that happened in my life like it happened to others. And after a while, you're in this field outside of yourself instead of inside yourself. Nothing wrong with being goal-orientated if it is with that, if it's personable and the goal, we don't achieve any goal without others around and having the right people around you. But when it becomes focused on what's missing and what you want and what is troubling you, after a while, this element floats in the larger picture, and you're living in the larger picture of what you haven't got and what others have in their life that I want too. And what showed up so beautifully was that when this is the center of it, and the humanity is there, things tend to they enlarge, and they bring in other elements that are human as well. And then this natural expansion arrives where life becomes better and better, and just more comes into your life, and that's the real wealth. And that was felt tangibly. Now, when we go over to this side here, this here is really often what I find very useful when looking at bipolar energies. And bipolar energies can be small or they can be big. The gap can be big. But what can happen is, if we have too big an idea for something, we have this idea, and so much energy and belief is given to that idea. And when that idea collapses, people tend to then go down here. And the example that showed up, see, really, at the end of the day, when you stand here and you see there, plans need to. They're steps. And as those steps become solid, this becomes here. And then you make other plans and steps. And then you are there. And it depends on how far you can go with that. And usually it involves people. In this particular case, it was lovely because she wanted to acknowledge one of the work partners, and this idea of let's celebrate her birthday, let's whatever it was, but forgot to speak it to the other people she was working with. It was just this fabulous idea of how she wanted to celebrate this birthday for this other being that the teamwork there. And she realised, you're right. Had I mentioned it to other people, they may have been interested. And the thing is, if they're not interested, you then find your own way of celebrating that birthday. So if people are on board, great. If people aren't on board, you do whatever that is in your energy to want to do. So this going up and down is problematic if you can't see what's happening and what's causing it. But that very element of feeling being respected and feeling being respected back, when that flow isn't there, you can still be you can still be civil, you can still be courteous, but then you notice where that humanness responds and who you prefer to spend time with, or how to develop that element. Because when that center is there, that movement of wherever it is that's happening in your life expands and grows. So the cards that came up this week were completeness and awareness. Completeness, a journey completed, a goal achieved, an era ended. And that's when you can see exactly where you are. When it's balanced out, you can see where you are. And from that, move forward. Acknowledge your wholeness. You are at an end of a significant era in your life. Acknowledge your hard work and feel good about energies expanded. This now opens new doors, and new horizons are just around the corner. You take with you all that you are and move forward into what you are becoming. So no hype, know what's missing, more that sense of being and expressing that with others and working out where that tribe is. Awareness. Quiet, self-assured. Self-assured awareness brings rich rewards. Awareness is the key to spiritual growth. But watch out for that ego, for as soon as you think you are aware of it all, you'll find out that you aren't. To arrive at any destination with fulfillment, take awareness and openness along with you. They take up very little space and yet create a most expansive view. Enjoy your beingness.